The dressing room was quiet when Frank Sinatra walked in at 7:42 p.m., exactly 78 minutes before he was scheduled to go on stage at the Copa Room in Las Vegas. And he'd barely set down his garment bag when he saw the man sitting in the corner chair, uninvited, unwelcome, but somehow inevitable. The man's name was Vincent Caruso, 47 years old, thinning hair slicked back with too much pomade. Cheap suit that had been expensive once but now showed its age in the shiny elbows and frayed cuffs. And the moment Sinatra's eyes landed on him, the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees even though neither of them moved. "Vinnie," Sinatra said, and his voice was flat, neutral, giving away nothing. "Frank," Vinnie said, and he stood up slowly, like he wasn't sure if he should, like maybe if he moved too fast Sinatra would tell him to sit back down or get out. And when he was fully standing, he looked smaller than Sinatra remembered, diminished somehow, the way men look when life hasn't been kind and they've stopped pretending it has. "How'd you get in here?" Sinatra asked, not hostile, just factual, because backstage at the Copa Room wasn't a place people just wandered into, not without credentials, not without someone letting them through. "I told the guy at the door we were old friends," Vinnie said. "Told him we grew up together in Hoboken. He said he'd ask you, but I said I wanted to surprise you." "Well, you surprised me." Sinatra hung his garment bag on the rack, turned back to face Vinnie fully. "What do you want?" "Can an old friend stop by to say hello?" "Old friends call first. They don't show up in your dressing room an hour before showtime." Vinnie's smile faded. Yeah, you're right, I should have called." "But you didn't." "No, why not?" Vinnie shifted his weight from one foot to the other, and Sinatra recognized the movement. Remembered it from 30 years ago when they were kids on the corner and Vinnie was about to ask for something he knew he shouldn't. "I need help, Frank." "What kind of help?" "The kind that costs money." Sinatra walked to the mirror, started loosening his tie, kept his eyes on Vinnie's reflection. "How much?" "5,000. Sinatra's hand stopped moving. $5,000. "Yeah, that's a lot of money, Vinnie. I know. What's it for?" Vinnie looked down at his shoes. "I got into some trouble, made some bad bets. Owe some people who don't like waiting, gambling." "Yeah, how long you been in the hole?" 6 months, maybe 8, I lost track." Sinatra resumed loosening his tie, pulled it off, draped it over the chair. "And you came to me. You're the only person I know who has that kind of money." "I'm the only person you know, period. We haven't talked in 20 years. "I know. You didn't come to my wedding. Didn't send a card when my kids were born. Didn't call when my mother died. But you show up here an hour before I go on stage asking for $5,000 like we're still friends." Vinnie's face flushed. "Frank, I know I haven't been around. I know I should've." "Should've what?" "Stayed in touch, sent a Christmas card. Actually given a damn about my life instead of just showing up when you need something." "I'm sorry." "No, you're not. You're desperate. There's a difference." The room went quiet. Somewhere down the hall, a horn player was warming up, running scales that echoed through the walls. Vinnie sat back down heavily, like his legs couldn't hold him anymore. "You're right," he said quietly. "I'm desperate. I'm broke. I owe money to people who break legs when they don't get paid. And I came here because I didn't know where else to go. But you're right, I'm not your friend. I haven't been your friend for a long time. I'm just some guy you used to know who's asking you for money because he's got nowhere else to turn." Sinatra looked at him in the mirror, really looked at him, saw the lines around Vinnie's eyes, the gray in his hair, the way his hands shook slightly when he wasn't holding them together. "Who do you owe?" Sinatra asked. "Does it matter?" "Yeah, it matters. If I give you $5,000 and you give it to the wrong people, you're dead anyway, so who is it?" Vinnie hesitated. "Tommy Grazio." Sinatra's jaw tightened. "Tommy Grazio. Jesus Christ, Vinnie, you borrowed money from Tommy Grazio." "I didn't have a choice." "Everyone has a choice. You chose to gamble. You chose to borrow from a loan shark. You chose to let it get to $5,000 before doing anything about it." "I know. So why should I bail you out?" Vinnie looked up at him, and for the first time since Sinatra had walked in, there was something real in his eyes, not hope, not expectation, just exhaustion. "You shouldn't," Vinnie said. "You're right, I made bad choices. I got myself into this. And I've got no right to ask you for help, but I'm asking anyway, because you're Frank Sinatra. Because you've got more money than you'll ever spend. Because $5,000 is nothing to you and everything to me. And because once, a long time ago, we were friends. And maybe that still means something." Sinatra turned away from the mirror, faced Vinnie directly. You know what the problem is with that logic? What? It assumes I owe you something because we were friends 30 years ago. It assumes that because I made it and you didn't, I'm responsible for fixing your mistakes. But I don't owe you anything, Vinnie. I worked for what I have. I earned it. You want to know how many times I almost lost everything? How many times I was broke and desperate and didn't have anyone to bail me out? I clawed my way back every time. I didn't go begging to old friends I hadn't talked to in 20 years. I'm not asking you to fix my life, Frank. I'm asking you to help me not get killed. And if I give you the money, what happens 6 months from now when you're in the hole again? Do you come back? Do I become the guy you call every time you screw up? No, 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 I swear this is it. One time I'll pay you back. Sinatra laughed bitter. Pay me back with what? You're broke, you just said so. I'll get a job, Vinnie, stop. We both know you're not going to pay me back. We both know that if I give you this money, it's gone. I'll never see it again, so let's be honest about what this is. This isn't a loan, this is charity. You're asking me to give you $5,000 because you're desperate and I have it. Vinnie didn't argue, just sat there defeated. Sinatra walked to his jacket, pulled out his wallet, flipped it open. Inside were several bills, hundreds mostly. He counted out 50 of them. $5,000. He held the money in his hand, looked at it, then looked at Vinnie. Stand up, Sinatra said. Vinnie stood. Sinatra walked over to him, held out the money. Vinnie reached for it. Sinatra pulled it back. Before you take this, I need you to understand something, Sinatra said. Okay. This isn't me helping an old friend. This isn't me being generous. This is me making sure I never have to see you again. You take this money, you pay Tommy Grazio, and then you disappear. You don't call me. You don't write. You don't show up backstage ever again. If I see you on the street, I'll walk past you like I don't know who you are. You understand? Vinnie's face crumpled. Frank, do you understand? Yeah, I understand. Sinatra handed him the money. Vinnie took it with shaking hands, folded it, put it in his pocket. Thank you, Vinnie said, and his voice cracked. Don't thank me. Just leave. Vinnie walked to the door, stopped, turned back. For what it's worth, Frank, I'm proud of you, what you've done, what you've become. I always knew you'd make it. No, you didn't. You thought I was wasting my time. You told me I should get a real job. You laughed when I said I was going to New York to sing. Vinnie's face flushed. I was a kid. I didn't know. You were jealous. You couldn't stand that I wanted something more than what Hoboken had to offer. And when I left and you stayed, you spent the next 30 years resenting me for it. So don't stand there and tell me you're proud. You're not proud. You're just glad I made it because now you can ask me for money. Vinnie stood there for a moment, tears in his eyes. Then he walked out without another word. Sinatra stood alone in the dressing room. He looked at his reflection in the mirror, saw the lines around his own eyes, the gray in his own hair. The man he'd become. There was a knock at the door. Yeah, Sinatra called. His manager, Hank Sanicola, stuck his head in. You okay? I saw Vinnie leave. He looked upset. He's fine. What did he want? Money. Did you give it to him? Yeah, how much? 5,000. Hank whistled. That's a lot of money for someone you haven't talked to in 20 years. I know. You want me to get it back? I can make some calls. No, let it go. Frank, if he's in trouble with Tommy Grazio, I said let it go. Hank nodded. Okay, you're on in 40 minutes. I'll be ready. Hank left. Sinatra sat down in the chair Vinnie had been sitting in. The fabric was still warm. He thought about Hoboken, about the corner where he and Vinnie used to stand, about the dreams he'd had and the ones Vinnie never had, about the fact that 30 years later he was Frank Sinatra and Vinnie was just Vinnie, broke and desperate and asking for help from someone who used to be his friend. Sinatra stood up, walked to the mirror, started getting ready for the show. At 9:00 p.m. exactly, he walked on stage. The spotlight hit him. The crowd erupted. He smiled, waved, started singing. Nobody in that audience knew that an hour earlier a man from his past had shown up asking for money. Nobody knew that Sinatra had given it to him with one condition: never come back. Nobody knew that as he sang, I've got you under my skin, he was thinking about Vincent Caruso walking out of the Copa Room with $5,000 in his pocket and no friendship left to show for it. The show was one of his best. The reviews the next day called it Sinatra at his peak. Masterful, unforgettable. 3 days later, Sinatra got a call from his accountant. Frank, I need to talk to you about a withdrawal. What withdrawal? $5,000 cash from your account. It's flagged for review. It's fine, I gave it to someone. Who? A friend with a name, Vinnie Caruso. Should I be worried about this? No, Frank, if someone's pressuring you, nobody's pressuring me. I gave him the money, it's done. Drop it. The accountant dropped it. 6 months later, Sinatra was having dinner at a restaurant in Los Angeles. A man approached his table, middle-aged, suit and tie, nervous smile. Mr. Sinatra, I'm sorry to interrupt, I just wanted to say I'm a huge fan. Sinatra looked up. Thanks. I'm George Caruso, Vinnie Caruso's brother. Sinatra's expression didn't change. Okay. I wanted to thank you for what you did for Vinnie. He told me you helped him out of a tough spot. Did he? Yeah, he said you saved his life. I gave him money, that's all. Well, it meant a lot to him, to our family. Good, how is Vinnie? George's smile faded. He's gone. Gone where? He's dead, Mr. Sinatra. He died 2 months ago. Heart attack. Sinatra felt something cold settle in his chest. I'm sorry to hear that. He'd been doing better, got a job, stopped gambling, paid off his debts. He was turning things around, and then George shrugged. Life's not fair sometime. No, it's not. Anyway, I just wanted you to know that what you did mattered. You gave him a chance to fix things. He took it. And he died a better man than he'd been in a long time, so thank you. George walked away. Sinatra sat alone at his table, food untouched, thinking about Vinnie Caruso. About the last thing he'd said to him. You take this money and then you disappear. And Vinnie had. Just not the way Sinatra had meant. Years later, someone asked Sinatra if he ever regretted cutting people out of his life. People who'd wronged him or disappointed him or asked for too much. No, Sinatra said. Why not? Because most of the time they deserved it. But what if they didn't? Sinatra was quiet for a moment. Then I live with it. Does that happen often, regretting it later? Once or twice? Can you give an example? Sinatra shook his head. No, why not? Because some regrets are private. The question is this. When an old friend shows up backstage asking for $5,000 to pay off a debt to a loan shark, and you give him the money but tell him to never come back, to disappear from your life, to walk past you on the street like you don't know each other, is that generosity, or is that buying your way out of guilt? And when he takes that money and turns his life around and dies 2 months later, never having contacted you again because you told him not to, did you save him? Or did you just make sure you never had to see the reminder of who you used to be? Because maybe the cruelest thing you can do isn't to refuse to help. It's to help with conditions that make the person you helped feel like they owe you their absence. And maybe that's why when his brother thanked you, you felt something cold settle in your chest. Because you realized that the last words you said to someone who once mattered were take this money and disappear. And he did exactly that, just more permanently than you meant. And now you have to live with the fact that you could have said something different, could have given him the money without the ultimatum, could have let him keep some dignity along with the cash. But you didn't, because you were protecting yourself from the inconvenience of his desperation. And that's a kind of power, sure, but it's also a kind of cruelty that doesn't announce itself until it's too late to take it back.